All right, moving on to item 10.0, which is action items. Do I hear a motion to amend the 2021-2022 general fund budget to provide payment to certified employees for dual modality and other adjustments to delivery of instruction and payment to other employees for the added responsibilities related to COVID-19?
Madam Chair, I move that the board amend the 2021-2022 general fund budget to provide payment to certified employees for dual modality and other adjustments to deliver of instruction and payment to other employees for the added responsibilities related to COVID-19 in the following categories. Number one, $2,000 gross for full-time employees. Number two, $1,000 gross for part-time employees. Number three, $500 gross each semester for substitute employees that work 45 days in either semester. Categories 1 and 2 will be paid in 2 payments for all active employees as of November 15th, 2021, and as of May 15th, 2022. Category 3 will be paid at the end of each semester.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, I believe Mr. Salters and Ms. Price are going to talk us through this.
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for this consideration this evening. We talked about this as an information item last month, and we are bringing this for your consideration this evening. As you recall, during our 2021-22 budget process, we had 3 main priorities that the board came to, along with the administration and our schools. And the first of those was to reduce and maintain student-teacher ratios. We did provide a step increase for all staff. And then we really focused on some different and really innovative employee retention and recruitment strategies. And we believe that these payments play right into that third bullet there. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Price for a minute to elaborate on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Salters. We definitely want to make sure that we are recognizing the exceptionally hard work that our teachers and all of our staff members are doing during this time. And we do feel like this would be a great retention strategy for them to show them our appreciation for the work that they are doing. And, you know, it's not just their normal work day that is different. A lot of them are, you know, really stepping outside of their comfort zone. A secretary may be covering a class or, you know, lots of things that are happening. And so, you know, when they come back from covering the class, they still have their work to get done as a secretary. So they're working sometimes over and just going above and beyond. And I don't think you can really name a department or a position that's not kind of participating in that. And we certainly don't know what this spring holds for us. We hope that things are certainly on a better track. But we know that there is still a lot of hard work left, a lot of lift, a lot of work to make up. And people are working very hard to ensure that that ground that was lost is being made up. And that's in all areas, whether it's here at Central Services, teachers in the classroom, again, office staff, whatever the case may be. So we feel like it would just be a great sign to our employees to show them what amazing work they have done. And we know we'll continue to do in the spring to get us where we need to go. So we appreciate the thought of recognizing our employees in this way.
Thank you, Ms. Price. And just to kind of give you a general overview again of the payments, we're proposing dual modality payments for our certified employees and then payments for our other staff. So again, full-time employees, we get a $2,000 gross. That's before taxes are taken out or retirement. And then that payment will be split into 2 payments, one this fall and one in the spring. And then for part-time employees, those working under 30 hours a week, they would get $1,000 split into 2 payments. And our substitutes, we did this last year, and we would ask for a $500 payment for those that have worked 45 days in the semester. And just looking at kind of the timeline again, if the employee's active on November 15th, you know, they would receive the pay on the 12/10 payroll in these first 2 categories. Substitutes would receive their pay at the end of the first semester if they qualify, which would be the February 25th payroll, the next available payroll there. The additional spring payment would be made in May on the, if they're on the, excuse me, it'd be made in June. If they're on the May 15th payroll, they would receive the pay June 9th, and then the substitutes would receive the pay on June 23rd if they qualified in the spring. So again, the original 21-22 general fund budget was $304,035,616. We estimate these payments to cost approximately $10.6 million, and so we would ask for an amendment to the budget, bringing the 21-22 budget up to $314,635,616. We would recommend this $10.6 million to be covered through the surplus that we had in this past budget year of about $12.5 million. The surplus was a result of a number of factors. One of those factors is some of our revenues in the local category came in a little bit higher than our budget. And then we had a number of expenditures that were budgeted in the general fund but paid for out of our ESSER 2 money and our CARES money, because obviously those didn't exist when we started that budgeting process. And so we were able to cover those expenditures. And then we budgeted our payroll. If you recall, this past year was the first time we had done this effort. Historically, it had been budgeted 100%. We budgeted at 98.5%. This past year, it actually came in at 96.5% of occupancy, roughly. And so that was a pretty good number to contribute to the surplus as well. So we'd recommend funding through that surplus, and be happy to answer any questions that any of the board members have.
So last year we were able to do the bonus for all of our employees, which was great. And so, Mr. Salters, you were saying like this is one of our goals was recruitment and retention. And then Ms. Price, you were talking about how this payment would be a great sign of the amazing work our teachers do. And I don't disagree with anything you guys are saying. Let me make sure I'm reading. Oh, wrong thing. Hang on, bear with me. I want to make sure. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I feel like this is two things combined in one, like dual modality and staff payments. But can you explain how those are the same thing? Because they seem a little different to me.
Well, they certainly are different things. We're paying for both things through this. And so dual modality, obviously you're familiar with that, teachers covering classes in quarantine. Ms. Gaskins gave a good synopsis of that at our last meeting.
Right.
And then when we have students on quarantine, we have staff on quarantine. Our other staff are also stepping up at the same time and pitching in, as Ms. Price just mentioned, doing other things. We have a cafeteria right now that has no food service staff. And I know one of our principals at that school was serving meals today. And so those are the types of things that are happening, and there are examples of that across the board. And so we obviously are looking at dual modality payment for teachers, but we're recommending, because of all the other extra things that our other staff are doing, to include them in a similar payment structure.
Okay, I really don't want it to come across that I don't think this is a good idea, because I really do think this is a good idea. But I feel like, so I think I told you this example, or someone, our bus drivers, if they drive extra, they get paid for extra. And I think the State Department stated, if teachers are teaching through dual modality, they should be compensated for that. But then, so I just feel like, I don't know, am I the only one that's feeling this way? That it's two separate things? I feel like, here, good job bonus, but here's compensation for your work.
I touched on that during the last meeting as well, that I kind of felt like giving everyone the same thing, although some have done more than others and some have already been compensated for what they've done, as in you know, the bus drivers, the hourly pay, those kind of employees. And I know, according to the state law, we have to provide payment for dual modality. So I know in some districts, they do a per diem based on if you taught kids and, you know, virtually and face-to-face that day. I don't really know what the solution is.
Right, I just want to make sure we're being fair.
So I know one of the things we talked about on our end was also just, to Kathy, to kind of your point about bus drivers. Certainly if they work over, they are compensated for that time, but just thinking about nobody's day looks the same anymore. So even though I am getting compensated for the extra time, my 8 hours that I'm on the clock looks very different than it ever did. So for example, a secretary like I used before that has to go cover for a class. So, you know, we're sending them off kind of into territory of, you know, things that maybe they're not as certified in, skilled in, that it's a new experience for them, but they're pitching in and kind of covering that. Their 8 hours is very different. Now, they may have to stay after 2 hours and they may be compensated for that to get their work done, but their work's really not done. You know, they're going above and beyond in a lot of different ways. I know Ms. Gaskins, to kind of speak to the different districts, I think she looked at several that were using some methods, and one of our concerns was how to track that, because it is.
Right, that's hard to quantify.
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't want teachers to end up with more paperwork and less money. That was one of our biggest concerns.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, when you have an all-hands-on-deck situation like we've had, it is hard to keep track of even what you did during the day. I mean, I'm sure we have a lot of staff that they get home and they're like, what was that today? Because I started the day in my district office, you know, at my desk, and then I'm serving lunches in Pelion, and then they needed help out, you know, I'm doing car line. So, I mean, I think it is hard to really track. I can't imagine what that would look like to try and track what 4,000 staff members are doing every day right now, because it would just be all over the place. And I understand your questions about the fairness, but I like where we've landed. That, I mean, to me, it's compensation, but it's also incentive. That, you know, thank you for doing this. This year is a quarter of the way through. We continue to need all hands on deck. We don't know what November's going to look like. We certainly don't know what January, February's going to look like, but we're committing to this now because we know you're going to be working your tails off for the next 7 months. And so this is our investment in all staff to say.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that this is a great thing. I think just quoting Ms. Price, it's a great sign of amazing work to them. I just wanted to make sure we're good with like the State Department that says we have to compensate
And I
teachers
think
for dual.
I think that they attended a workshop or something where
We're following
these
all the
questions.
procedures for the State Department to adequately, you know, document dual modality with our teachers and compensate, should this go forward.
So I have a question about that. In state law, it says that the school district has to provide to the State Department of Education the name of the teacher, the school, subject area, where they were hired to teach, and that has to be reported to the General Assembly. So how is that tracked every day?
We have a reporting system that we use, that we report, you know, this information to the State Department.
Okay, so can you currently track when a teacher teaches dual modality on any given day?
We can look at our attendance quarantine situation and get that information, because every time that a student goes into quarantine, the teacher is addressing the student's needs.
Okay.
And the benefit of this strategy, again, as we mentioned last time, some districts, you mentioned what are other districts doing. One district is pooling a few teachers after school, and those teachers are the only ones who are doing quarantine instruction. In this scenario, in our strategy, has been that your teacher interacts with your student. And so it keeps that connection with the classroom and the other students in the classroom, you know, in an ideal scenario. So it's not a random teacher after school from, 3 to 6, meeting with the students.
And I think it's very difficult too, to separate what our teachers are doing right now from like, for dual modality. So maybe the classroom teacher is using their lunch to talk with a quarantined student. And so that means the instructional assistant is covering lunch by them. So I think the ripple effect of because the teachers are doing an incredible lift right now, but they're not by themselves in the building. And so I think that when they are engaged in the dual modality that the General Assembly addressed, everybody in the building is supporting that effort to make sure that those students have time with their teacher.
And guys, big picture, the team's already under duress. If we want to splinter our school-based teams more, we do disparate pay. I mean, you have got to roll out a consistent bonus to all the team members. The principals are already stressed enough keeping the teams pulled together. If we don't do this in this unified fashion, it's just going to lead to conflict.
Oh, I agree with what
So,
you said about a bonus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, I think to your point, Ms. Henson and Ms. Price and Mr. Salters, sometimes just the acknowledgement that we acknowledge that this is not a perfect scenario. And while there's any number of different ways to do this, we find this way to be, our lay of the land and kind of what we see in our schools and just the boots on the ground. And while it's not perfect, I think sometimes just acknowledging that is sometimes just comforting for someone who may feel unequally yoked, throughout this process. So, I think that would be the message to all of the staff at Lexington One is that, we're on the heels of a very tough haul. And so, I think this is just a fair and equitable way across the board.
I think it's a very important message that we send. It's not going to be fair to 100%. Life's not fair. But I think it's important that we send this message as a support, recognizing the tough times that they've been through. I mean, being a principal for 25 years, just having a normal day was a godsend. Because you come up on having a change, and you depended on your staff to do that. They didn't sign up for a bonus. They just did it because it was in their heart to do it. They had a servant heart. And we need to recognize that at this point in time with this pandemic and what everybody's been through. Thank you.
And I think I heard you right, Mr. Oswald. You said that the message is that Lexington One is the greatest place to work for all staff and teachers, hands down, period. Therefore, Ms. Price should never have another issue
I
with
love it.
filling up the,
Even in a pandemic, it's the greatest place to
HR
work.
reports. Okay, I thought I heard that right.
but
I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but I thought I heard that.
And I think to your point, Dr. Guyton, I think, people are watching those kinds of things as we look to recruitment and retention strategies. And we've certainly done several things this year that I think are great strides. Like you said, it's not perfect, and there's lots of things that we do that aren't perfect, but I think we extend that offer out there says a lot about our district.
All right, board, any other questions for Mr. Salters or Ms. Price or anyone? All right, Dr. Powers, would you read the motion one more time for us?
All right, Madam Chair, I move that the board amend the 21-22 general fund budget to provide payment to certified employees for dual modality and other adjustments to delivery of instruction and payment to other employees for the added responsibilities related to COVID-19 in the following categories. Number one, $2,000 gross for full-time employees. Number two, $1,000 gross for part-time employees. And number three, $500 gross each semester for substitute employees that work 45 days in either semester. Categories 1 and 2 will be paid in 2 payments for all active employees as of November 5th, 2021, and as of May 15th, 2022. Category 3 will be paid at the end of each semester.
Thank you very much, Dr. Powers. All right, board, you've heard the motion again. All in favor, please?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I think he said November 5th, and it's actually November 15th.
November 15th. Yes, sir.
November
Just
15th.
wanna-
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Just want to
correction.
clarify.
Yep.
Thank you.
Would you repeat the whole thing
No,
again?
no, no, no,
I'm just
please.
kidding. All right, board, you've heard the motion, and it's been seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries.